Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Mayor Mitch Landrieu's Violence in New Orleans address. We would like to extend a special thanks to Tulane University for hosting us this evening. Following the program, Mayor Landrieu will take questions from the audience. Now, please welcome Tasia Jackson from Renew Dolores T. Aaron Academy and Lionel Bell from KIPP Central City Academy to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please welcome Nola for Life community leader, Katrina Peters. To deliver our invocation this evening, please welcome Pastor David Crosby of First Baptist Church of New Orleans.
Let's pray together. Father in heaven, we're so grateful tonight for a community like ours, so full of life. God, thank you for the blessing of being here and being a citizen. God, we thank you for the folks who are present in this room, for our police officers who are present. We pray you'll be with our police chief, Harrison, for all of our public servants, God. We thank you for them. Lord, we gather tonight knowing that you hear the cry from our city. The cry of bereavement from moms and dads who have lost children in our streets. The cry comes to you continually, like a chorus of sorrow. God, we acknowledge this. And Lord, we don't know what to do sometimes, or even know how to understand. But we come to you because you're a mighty God, and our eyes are upon you. And we pray for a path forward in this struggle against the violence in our streets. God, we thank you for our mayor. He's got the bereaved on his heart every day. I pray that you'll be with him as he speaks to us tonight, others who participate. Help us to hear, Lord. Help us to join with friends, civic leaders, faith leaders, as we seek to build a community where everyone, every citizen, can flourish. So we entrust these requests unto you and look forward to your answer. In your name we pray. Amen.
And now, please welcome Katrina Peters, Nola for Life community leader.
I'm happy to be here tonight to introduce my friend, Mayor Landrieu. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Katrina Peters. I am many things. A resident of the Lower Ninth Ward, an advocate for mothers and young black men, and a Mardi Gras Indian queen. But I'm also a mother who has lost a son to gun violence. My son was just weeks away from beginning a new life in great educational opportunities in Texas. It was a dream that would never come to life for either of us. A couple of years after Damon's murder, I began working with the mayor as part of his Nola for Life initiative. And since that time, I've spoken to more than 300 young men to encourage them to stop the violence in their communities. I have shared my story of profound loss over and over and over again, hoping that it will help others to find their way. Because my son's death will not be in vain. I'm also an original member of the Mayor's Welcome Table New Orleans Mother's Circle. And our mission is to end the culture of violence on our streets and to create a community where love and healing triumph. I hope that you can join me and the other mothers May 14th as we march to remember our loved ones lost to violence. I want to say thank you, Mayor Landrieu, because there are not many people that would have taken on this fight, especially in this city of New Orleans. Thank you, Mayor, for hearing my cry, feeling my pain, and being passionate to take action. Thank you. Thank you. And to help share my story and heal, at least partially, part of my broken heart. Ladies and gentlemen, New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu.
We can go home. Katrina, I love you. I know you do. I'm very thankful to all of you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come and talk about a very difficult subject. I want to begin by thanking Tulane University for hosting us here tonight. I want to thank our council members, my partners in the work that we do every day in the city, our judges, police chief, our legislators, our elected officials, our pastors, our business leaders, our labor leaders, our community leaders for joining with me tonight. I am always moved by Katrina and the story of her life and her son's early departure from us. In many ways, if you took a composite of everything that New Orleans is, it would be the face of Katrina. And I thank her and all of the other mothers, many of whom are here today. Mothers, can you stand up so that everybody can see you? Who have lost children to violence on the street of New Orleans and make up the mayor's table. Thank you. I am and have been blessed to be the mayor of this great city, in my opinion, the greatest city in the world. But the job comes with awesome responsibilities and difficult days. My most difficult moments, many of you have heard me say, is hearing from the chief. We talk many times every day, but normally it's in the morning, and it goes something like, Mayor, I hate to inform you that last night we had another murder. More often than not, it was a young man who was laying face down on the street with a bullet hole in the head. And on the bottom is, we're working really hard on it, but there are no witnesses. And it goes over and over and over again. And so as your mayor, I, as you know, am your ambassador to the rest of the world. I spread the good news and the joy about the city of New Orleans. There is no greater place. There are no greater people. But I also am an eyewitness to the agony that families go through when they lose their children to violence. And I am compelled to testify to what I see and to what I know. And so I say to all of you, my fellow New Orleanians, my friends, my brothers and my sisters, that we are a city, we are a country that is drunk on violence. And we need to wake up to this fact. 18 days ago at 11:31 p.m. on a Saturday night, in the heart of our city, Will Smith was shot and killed following what should have been a minor car accident. His death leaves a wife alone, 3 children without a father, his fellow teammates in shock, and a hole in the heart of a hurting city. It has been rightly said about all these murders that tragedy is on both sides of the gun. In this case, on the other side of the gun is Cardell Hayes. He's in jail. But he has a family too, and a 5-year-old daughter. One life lost, many more lives changed forever, swallowed by a cycle of violence that came and went so fast that it was almost a dream, or in this case, a nightmare. And the city is left to wonder why. Since that terrible night, the news coverage has been nonstop, no doubt. But the other big story remains unnoticed and unreported. And this is really the shame of our city and the shame of this great nation. Coach Payton, who I love, called it a dirty little secret. Well, he was wrong. It's big. And you know what? It's not a secret. The deadly violence is with us every day, all day. And the media, doing the best they can, go through the motions, which frames our thinking and our discussion. A murder or a shooting or an armed robbery means 90 seconds at the top of the hour. Footage of crime, scene tape, maybe a security camera photo, a mug shot, a brief interview with a neighbor or a friend, hype about violence, its wave, or a crime spree. But that's it. There's no broader context. There's no further discussion about what has become the wallpaper of American life, always in the background, but more often unnoticed. I want you to look at these pictures for me. Look at them carefully. And I want you to look at these books. These books contain the names and faces of every human being, every American citizen that has been killed in the city of New Orleans since I have been honored to be your mayor. That's a lot of books. 1,003 names. Men and women lost to murder since just 6 years ago. And less than 24 hours after Will Smith was killed, there was another life taken. But for this murder victim, there were no headlines. There were no big TV stories. There were no editorials in the national papers. I wonder if anybody in here even knows his name. His name was Brian Brasfield. He was 31 years old. He was the first of 6 murdered since Will was shot 18 days ago. So let's just take a minute to remember them. Jermaine Curry, Brian Miskell, David Ducro, Juan Moreno, and Keenan Lewis. Such a tragedy. But here's the thing. That's just a drop in the bucket. Since 1980, the year that Prince performed on TV for the first time, over 650,000 Americans have been killed on the streets of our beloved country. That's more lost to murder than Americans killed during all of the wars of the last 100 years. Can I say that again? All Americans lost in all of the wars in the last 100 years. We never talk about it. We're evidently numb to it, to the daily violence, and maybe only a shock to the system can wake us up from this day's slumber. Sometimes it's the death of a celebrity like Will. Other times it's a horrible mass shooting like Sandy Hook. Sometimes it's the death of an innocent child. And so was the case in New Orleans 4 years ago. You may remember. Her name was Brianna Allen. She was standing on the porch of her grandmother's house at her cousin's birthday party. 3 teenagers were coming by. They saw somebody they wanted to kill. They pulled out an AK-47. They strafed the porch. They blew her guts out. All her father could do was hold her tiny head in his hand. The blood pooled on the porch beneath the birthday balloons, life seeping out of her and out of the city of New Orleans. Suddenly everything stopped. You remember? Collectively, we all gasped. But even as the entire city mourned, the violence continued unabated. I want to tell you the rest of the story. Brianna's father was soon arrested for another murder. He's now serving life behind bars. Meanwhile, Brianna's uncle would be dead within a year, ambushed by 2 other men with assault rifles. However, the true epilogue in this terrible story is actually prologue for the future of our city. It's about Cardell Allen, Brianna's cousin. You see, it was his birthday party that day. He was hit in the neck. His cousin was killed. But for the grace of God, that day, Cardell survived. But he couldn't escape the violence that surrounds this child. 5 months later, his father was fatally stabbed by his stepmother, and then nearly a year to the day of his cousin Brianna's death, Cardell was again, if you can even believe this, caught in the crossfire, this time shot in the face along with 18 others at the Mother's Day shooting in Treme. Twice, this child came inches from having his head blown off. And we expect little boys like Cardell to soldier on, to stand up on their own 2 feet. But let me ask you something. Could we? Could you? Could anybody in this room? I've looked in Cardell's eyes. I've touched his cheek, knowing that it will forever scar him. But here's the problem. His other scars run really, really deep. And here's the thing. We don't know about him yet. Now, we've seen this before in our city. Let me take you back to another Mother's Day in 1994. 9-year-old James Darby walking down the street with his mother, going into A.L. Davis Park, named after a great civil rights leader, a park right across the street from where Dr. King started the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, that A.L. Davis Park. On a Mother's Day when everybody was enjoying themselves and there was a pickup football game, and a little girl in the game accidentally got hit in the eye. She ran out of the park. She went home, and guess who she found at home? She found her brother, Joseph, and he was drunk, and he was not going to tolerate the disrespect. So now you know the end of the story. He got a gun, got in a car with his little brother Michael, drove back by the park, saw people walking down the street from it, put his shotgun out, pulled the trigger, and he shot James Darby and killed him. And in this case, again, the tragedy is on both sides of the gun. The pain and agony is not just over losing one child, but two, 9-year-old James, and then 19-year-old Joseph. One child buried in the cold ground and another child in Angola prison for the rest of his life. I met him a couple of months ago. $450,000 later. Sure to live a lot of long years and cost everybody a lot more money. His life will end in Angola prison. And here we are, again, left to wonder what could have been for each of these men. As the years go by, the violence has become so ingrained, so baked in, it's now part of our culture. Each part of a larger whole. It's a pattern of behavior spanning decades. But we all know this, conditions on the ground almost predict the outcome. Indeed, from that Mother's Day in 1994 till today, over 4,600 people have been murdered in your city. Fill up this auditorium 7 times. It should be shocking. More people murdered in our city during the last 22 years than the American soldiers lost during the war in Iraq. More American citizens than lost in the terrorist attack in 9/11, and many more than have been killed by ISIS. So it's been decades of urban warfare on our streets. And how have we responded as a people and as a nation? Gunshots for everything, murder over nothing. Even little kids tell me all the time, Mr. Mayor, man, out here it's kill or be killed. That reverberates in my mind all of the time. If this doesn't sound familiar to you, uptown, or in the halls of this great university, there is a very good reason for that. Things that happen off campus may as well be on another planet. So many of us live a block away from each other, but often a world apart. It is happening, and it's happening to us as a people and a city. But this doesn't just come out of nowhere. Murder and violence in all of its forms is the poisonous fruit that grows from a soil of injustice, from racism, from inequality, fertilized by guns, drugs, alcohol, broken families, and a disintegrated social structure. Refined over many centuries, frustration turns to cynicism, which becomes misery and despair. Hope fades, hate grows. All of a sudden, nothing to lose. All it takes is a spark, and then there's blood on the streets. Some say it's always been this way. I say if we made the problem, we can fix it, because we have to. So, what we're doing here together is smart, it's tough, and it's comprehensive. It's focused on strengthening neighborhoods, fixing broken institutions, broken systems, and helping, yes, broken people. So, for example, in partnership with the City Council, we have tripled the funding for our recreation department. We've supported innovative reforms that improve our school. The results, our kids are learning, our dropout rates are down, test scores are up, and more of our young people are graduating. And in the long run, all of our work creating a city of peace is dependent on what happens in our schools. So I want to thank all of the teachers, all of the students, all of the parents, all of the school administrators who are here today. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you. The other big piece of the work that we're doing is, and you've heard this, Nola for Life, which is our comprehensive murder and violence reduction strategy. There are over 30 different initiatives that are part of Nola for Life. And one of those programs is Ceasefire. New Orleans, where violence interrupters who grew up on the streets now work to keep the peace. They have credibility in the community and literally go to murder scenes to talk with the victims' friends and family, trying to prevent more bloodshed by interrupting potential retaliation. They do a great job, and I thank you all for your efforts. Thank you. Another centerpiece of NOLA for Life is our very aggressive group violence reduction strategy. We go find these members of the gangs that are on probation and parole. We bring them to Tulane and Broad. We put them in the courtroom. Me, the chief, the U.S. Attorney, DEA, ATF, FBI, the U.S. Attorney, council members, talk to these young men. We tell them, look, you got three options. You can die on the street if you choose. You can spend the rest of your life in prison, or you can accept help. Because in the room with us as well, we have not-for-profits, the faith-based community, mental health services, job services, and we promise them that we will put them at the front of the list. If they make a bad choice, there is going to be a bad consequence. But if they want to make a good choice, they can get help. Or at the end of the day, they have to go to jail. Now, I know this is a tough message, but some of these guys are stuck in their violent ways. We have to act to preserve the safety of the community, and through the new NOPD multi-agency gang unit, we have handed down 114 indictments to these violent offenders. And they're going to spend the rest of their life in jail. But here's another thing that we learned in talking to these young men. They really want out of the life, because the life on the street is no life at all. We think that with help, that they can and make a different choice. And this is the mentality that we also bring to our other NOLA for Life efforts, including our prison reentry initiative, which helps returning citizens coming out of jail start a new life. We seek to make contact, usually within 72 hours of release, and now we have over 120 people in the program getting help finding jobs, housing, whatever else is needed. And as the city, we have also, thank you council members, banned the box that requires job applicants to reveal their criminal record on the written application. Now an individual with a criminal record can get an interview and explain their past and what they have to offer before they're turned away. For example, there is Jordan Collins, who is with us today. Jordan, where are you? Stand up. I want y'all to look at Jordan. This young man had just gotten out of Orleans Parish Prison and got started with our NOLA for Life reentry program. It was a difficult time, but he had plans for a better future. With hard work, a little bit of help, he finished college at UNO, and he's now working at the university. I'm not finished yet. Hang on. Plus, he wants to go work offshore, and we're trying to help him. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Congratulations on everything you're doing. Jordan shows an example of how important it is to have NOLA for Life attached to the hip of the overarching economic opportunity strategy that we employ, which is about jobs, by creating new pathways to prosperity for everyone. So we brought another example, Matt Causey. Where are you, Matt? Stand up, buddy. Matthew came from work. Matthew just finished the 11th of midnight basketball seasons, which organizes Saturday tournaments in tough neighborhoods. Matt decided to play. He was part of our group of 3,300 individuals, but he was looking for a job. So we connected him, and now he works for the city of New Orleans in the Department of Park and Parkways, doing a great job helping keep the city beautiful. Matthew, thank you very much. I'm proud of you. We've also helped hundreds of small local businesses find loans and other needed support and launched a new intensive job readiness program that's called Strive. Unbelievable program, connecting people to jobs that they need. Plus, in the city, we have already raised the minimum wage for city employees and contractors. Now the state needs to do the same. Thank you. So here it is in a nutshell. NOLA for Life is all about prevention, working in the community, focused on reducing group or gang violence. Now, our economic opportunity strategy is about creating pathways to prosperity for anyone willing to work hard. That's our 1-2 punch against violence. But there's a third. It's the police department. We're making dramatic changes through the leadership of Chief Harrison at the police department to make sure that there is never another Danziger Bridge tragedy. We have the NOPD working now with consent decree, the most comprehensive police reform in American history, and we are building the best police department in the world. Please give a round of applause to the men and women of the New Orleans Police Department. The overall goal is to change the department's culture, to insist on transparency with body cameras, to retrain for community policing, hold everyone accountable, and grow the department so there are more high-performing police officers on the street and in our neighborhoods. In fact, we have 2 classes in the academy right now, and the new class 176 starts in May, while class 174 graduates on Friday. Can you guys please stand up and be recognized? This is the future NOPD. Thank you. Thank you. So this is what real systemic change looks like. Unfortunately, earlier this month, a new millage for hiring even more police officers was narrowly defeated. Now, ironically, it was on the same day of Will Smith's death. Afterwards, as you can imagine, loud demands for more protection against violent criminals dominated the airwaves and the social media. But hear this: to demand more police protection one minute and the next vote down the money to pay up for it does not add up to me. You cannot get more with less. We are going to get less with less. The other alternative is cutting recreation and job training, but I just explained to you that that doesn't work either. Because to stop violent crime, we must invest in these sorts of prevention programs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a zero-sum game. And this is unfortunate because there is so much more that we have to do. Unless unforeseen revenue is authorized by the state or the people of New Orleans reconsider, we will not be able to grow the department as we need to. And this is not good. It is a bad outcome. Nevertheless, we're freeing up officers to focus on violent crime. Already, we have moved dozens of officers from behind desks to the street, and more overtime functionally adds nearly 100 officers to the force. We've also cracked down on properties with private security companies that repeatedly have false alarms. Fewer false alarms free up more police to combat violent crime. Plus, we want to change state law so instead of waiting hours for a police officer to write a 5-sentence report on a fender bender, citizens would have the option to self-report the incident online or over the phone. That means more officers in the field focused on violent crime. In a similar vein, NOPD is taking more victim statements over the phone for nonviolent property crimes. That way, if your bike is stolen, you can just do it on the phone. Thus far, we've saved and redirected over 1,200 officer hours to violent crime and other high-priority 911 calls. But let me give you an uncomfortable truth, which is a basic fact. Even with more police, which we need, we cannot just arrest or imprison our way out of our problems of violence. We've tried that. That alone does not work. That is made clear by the data. We live in the most incarcerated city, in the most incarcerated state, in the most incarcerated country in the world. And Louisiana's violent crime rate is consistently many times the national average. Mass incarceration does not make us safer. Plus, it costs us dearly. Now, in New Orleans, we are making headway. We've reduced our jail population from over 6,000 before the storm to 1,600 today. So we're making progress. We just received the $1.5 million MacArthur Foundation grant to reduce the prison population even more. But we have so much more to do. Now, it's often said that guns don't kill people, that people kill people. But isn't it more true to say that people with guns kill people? Lots of people. When it comes to the Constitution, I believe that for every right, there is a corresponding responsibility. And I firmly believe that there is a right to bear arms. But with that right, we all have a basic responsibility to use guns safely. So to that end, our administration, in partnership with the City Council, has proposed a package of gun safety laws to be enacted at the local level focused on criminals and protecting our kids. Our proposal includes new requirements to report lost or stolen guns, which is a major source of guns used by criminals. We've also proposed local bans on guns without serial numbers, bans on guns at parks or playgrounds, and bans on gun ownership by people convicted of domestic battery, including those in same-sex relationship who are not currently covered by state law. All common sense. However, on this issue of guns, we can only do so much at the local level. The federal government and the state legislature must act to really make a dent in this big problem. But we have a moral obligation to take this on. And I want to thank Council members Williams and Gray for leading that effort. These guys are here today. Thank you all very much. Now, obviously, I've already given you a lot, but there is some good news. For as big as this problem is, there are solutions, and we are, in fact, even though it doesn't feel like it every day, making progress. Let me give you some numbers. Overall, murder down 61% from 424 murders in 1994 to 164 last year. Murder per capita, the rate, is down 50%. Violent crime is also down a whopping 60% from 1994, with a similar fall in the rate. So far in this year, murder is down 33%. In fact, we are projected to be well below our 2014 murder number, which was already an historic 43-year low. That said, let me be abundantly clear. One murder in this city is too many. One violent crime is unacceptable. But our city is getting safer, although obviously we have a very long way to go. Citywide declines notwithstanding, African American men and women are living in certain neighborhoods that are at much higher risk of any other neighborhoods in the city and in the country. Indeed, in New Orleans, over 90% of our murder victims are African Americans, and about 80% of the perpetrators knew the victim. I want to say that to you again. 80% of the perpetrators and the victims knew each other. The question is, for us, do we really care? Because some people still think that black lives really do not matter. But they're wrong. Black lives do matter. But here's the thing, all black lives matter. As wonderful as Will Smith was, just not professional athletes, just not those, as tragic as it is, shot by police officers, just as blessed and as pure as they are, not just the innocent kids who are bystanders, all black lives matter, period. Especially those that we ignore. The thieves, the drug dealers, the so-called thugs, these lives matter. We all have value. And if you want to be safe, everybody has to have justice. Everybody has a shot at equity. If you want peace of mind, we can't leave anybody behind. We need everyone. Whatsoever you do, you know the end of that line. Every great country is judged by how they treat the least among us. This is not just a slogan. It's a moral imperative. Nothing happens in isolation, and each of us, each and every one of us, need to do our part. So let me go down the list and give everybody a little bit of homework. At the federal level, we've already talked about common sense gun safety laws. But I need help. We need help. We need more police officers on our street. I want to recall for you that during the 1990s, the federal government, through the COPS program, spent billions to pay salaries for tens of thousands of local police officers, but not anymore. That program has been gutted, along with other public safety funding from the Department of Homeland Security. These cuts made us feel less safe. We've spent trillions of dollars prosecuting the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We spent billions of dollars hiring 50,000 police officers for the city of Medellin, Colombia. America, in order to be safe abroad, has to be safe at home. And the federal government has a role in making that true. They have to do their part. That means also funding substance abuse, mental health, and far more officers to do community policing on the street. And guess what? With more well-trained and supervised agents from ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshals, the FBI, and more U.S. attorneys. From there, our state has to step up to the plate. For decades, Louisiana as a whole has been one of the most violent states in the Union and has more murder per capita than any other state. Now, although New Orleans is no longer the nation's murder capital, guess what? Louisiana as a whole remains number one. So the state has a role and a responsibility as well. But sometimes it feels like the state hurts more than it helps. For example, the state pulls in at least $60 million in taxes per year from Harris that sits right in the center of our city. This money is spent in other parts of the state. In my opinion, the city does not get its fair share. Let me give you another example. The $160 million in annual tickets, parking, and concessions sold at the Superdome or the arena are exempt from sales tax, so that none of that money that we spend there comes back to the city of New Orleans for police protection, recreation, or education. And even though we are the ones working overtime getting everything ready, most of the sales tax and hotel motel tax revenue coming from tourists attending Jazz Fest, Mardi Gras, French Quarter Fest, the Zurich Classic, and Essence goes to the state and to other entities, not to the city of New Orleans for police protection, recreation, and education. And to add insult to injury, not only is the state starving New Orleans of resources, but it is also now defunding important state services like probation and parole, mental health, senior centers, the public defender, and the district attorney. If they just let us keep our revenue, you know what? We'll be fine. From there, I want to tell you that I work very closely with my city council, and I'm proud of each and every one of these men and women. On criminal justice reform, they really stand tall. 6 years of balanced budgets and close collaboration on many things, like the gun safety ordinance that we introduced last week. I want to thank them all again for their great work. We have more to do, but we would not have been able to give the police department raises, triple the funding for NARD, work on the reductions at the jail without the city council. You guys are champions, and I appreciate it, and I thank you very much. Now, for the business community, we all know about wanting to buy local. Here's what I want. I want you to hire local. I want the businesses in this city to give our African American men and women a chance, especially young people during the summer. I also want you to follow the lead of the city of New Orleans and ban the box for all your job applicants and work with us on our Reentry initiative. Plus, we need our business community to help us remove indefensible special interest tax exemptions for businesses and some not-for-profits that are in commercial enterprises. No more loopholes. It isn't fair, and it prevents the city from having enough money to ensure that public safety is what we need. But here's the thing. The greatest tool that we have in our fight against violence in New Orleans is the collective power of we the people. The power resides within us. We just need to tap it. We each need to activate all of our networks to find opportunities to help. So when your church is planning the next service project, maybe suggest working with young people to teach conflict resolution. When you're in the voting booth, vote to support public safety. Donate to great organizations like the New Orleans Police and Justice Foundation and Crime Stoppers, who are helping us recruit more police officers and protecting witnesses. And perhaps most importantly, just show up. Come to Midnight Basketball and see why over 3,300 young people from violent neighborhoods have come out to play and get connected to resources that they need. They're there. They want your help. They need your help. Come show up. Join one of our police community advisory boards. Show up to NOPD's CompStat meetings. Organize your neighbors and watch out for one another. Maybe even install a crime camera on your property that can get plugged in to our overall system. Or here's the thing, if you really want to help, put in an application to join the New Orleans Police Department. Get behind the badge. We need you. Here's the thing, do something. Do anything that you can do to help, even if it's a small thing. There are so many people that have already tried, so many with us today, who are doing their part to make our city better and a more peaceful place. One great example is Glenn Mueller, the regional CEO of RPM Domino's Pizza. 2 of their drivers got shot in the last couple of years. And you know what Glenn did not do? Glenn did not look for scapegoats. He didn't play the blame game. He did not cut and run. You know what they did? They doubled down. It's unbelievable. They put NOPD recruitment ads on every Domino's pizza box and became big supporters of Midnight Basketball. At every turn, they have been there ready to help with time, money, and energy. Can you please give Domino's and Glenn and his team a round of applause? Thank you. Another great example is Troy Boucher. She leads the Center for Restorative Approaches, which works in schools across the city, helping young people with conflict resolution. This is so important as we try to change the culture of violence. At the same time, our friend Max with Operation Spark, they're also working with kids around the city, teaching software development, preparing the next generation for the jobs of the future. Many thanks to Troy, to Max, and their organizations. I appreciate it. Thank you all so much. We also have with us Sherry Callaway, the Executive Director of Limitless Vistas, which works with Nola for Life on our Reentry program. She and her staff are changing lives, helping to keep our city safe. And I also want to recognize Jonathan Wilson and Patrick Anderson from 100 Black Men of New Orleans. They and other great leaders like Sonny Lee from Son of the Saint, they're with us and they're helping spearhead the Nola for Life mentoring program. And finally, Jeremy Lee is one of those volunteers. So you guys stand up and please be recognized. Please. You can't tell me that there's not a way for you to help if you want. There are great pioneers that are out there doing it. And finally, there's our Lieutenant Jeanette Williams. As a member of the NOPD, she's organizing youth police dialogues to break down barriers between the community and the police. As she said, we want our youth to see us beyond the uniform, to humanize us. We are here to help them. Lieutenant, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So here's the thing. We each have to do our part. On the back of your program, you will find the top 10 things that the people of the city, individuals, can do to help. Or go to nolaforlife.org for more information about what you can do. However, when you get down to its essence, this is also about personal responsibility. You can't escape it. In some ways, it's pretty simple. There would be less murder if people stopped shooting. And fewer young people would be struggling if they had support from strong families and strong parents. Babies having babies doesn't work. We need families raising children, not teenagers, and we all need to take care of our business. There is no excuse. We have to quit waiting. We have to start doing. Be clear about this. We may not all be at fault, but we are all responsible for fixing this problem. This is real work. not the time for photo ops or hot passion that fades after a few hours. We're in this for the long haul, and we need each of you to go back and to get your families, your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, your churches to help. After Katrina, we pulled ourselves out of the water. And in sorrow, we came together as a people. And when the Saints won that Super Bowl, we came together again, this time in utter joy. Will Smith's death, hopefully, has awoken us from our slumber and have brought us back into pain. In 6 years together, we have made a lot of progress. We've also had a lot of heartache. Now, whether saint or sinner, we are a family, and together we are working through our city's most difficult issue because great food, great music, great festivals, and great football are not enough. That is not alone who we are. Whether Brianna Allen, Will Smith, or Brian Brasfield, all of their lives matter. But here's the thing, we need to be able to hear each other. We need to be able to see each other. We need to be able to touch each other. We need to be able to feel each other. Our greatest strength is our people, and every one of them is an important part of our future. If we lose one, we risk losing it all. Together, we have to stop it, just like we would ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Ebola, or any other threat to our life and the safety of our community. We don't shy away from challenges in this city. In fact, we do the opposite. We run to the fire. We put a man on the moon, for goodness sake. We can certainly figure out how to fix this. Because let's be clear, our lives and the future of our city depend on it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I thank you all very much for being so attentive. Please have a seat. I want to answer a couple of questions. If anybody has them in the audience, feel free. Anybody?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Speak loud. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
My name is Larry Morgan. I'm from Calton.
Hey, Mr.
And
Morgan.
I'd like to ask you this question here. Gruesome murders that take place, and these people are sent to prison. And the reason, and what it is, it's nothing but a hate reform, because the homeboys there, they got their back. Now, this is what I'm saying, that I listen to you in all the scenarios that you're trying to change it and make it a better city. But I ask you to take into consideration this scenario. Those people that kill those people in cold blood with no remorse, knowing that if they hired a high-power lawyer, that they will get away with it, or knowing if they will go to jail, that they will not die. Why is it that those people who have killed those people in cold blood cannot die the same way that they had killed those people? Because you see, what I'm saying is this, you understand? Is that as long as they come up with a sophisticated system to prolong the life of those murderers, it's not going to end. But if you go it on and let them face the same death that they inflicted on those people in the family, I guarantee you that you will have a change in the system of murder. But if you don't, I don't care how much money the government gives you, I don't care how much college analyzer professor gives you, you're not going to stop until you come up with a better system of letting those people face the same death that they inflicted on the people who they had killed.
Thank you very much for your comment. I don't think that was a question, but I'll take it as a comment. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, thank you. A question that I had, especially as someone who's lived in New Orleans prior to I completed my MBA through the University of New Orleans, moved away and returned back because the city got in my partner's heart and in mine as well.
Has a way to do that.
But the question that, a problem that we face, and I know that this is also an overall state budget issue, but for mental funding. I saw on page 22 of the plan that we are looking to do some cognitive behavioral therapy for our youth, within the I'm not sure what it was referred to in there, but overall, are there any initiatives towards trying to get more students and more funding to become psychologists, psychiatrists, et cetera, and also to open further mental health institutions? More so especially, and this may be from naivety, but we have friends who are residents currently, and that's one of the residents of East Jefferson, and that's one of the biggest problems that they face is releasing individuals who come in with mental health issues directly back to the streets. So I guess that's my overall question.
It's a great question. Did everybody hear that question? We have a very weak mental health safety net in the United States of America and in the state of Louisiana and consequently in New Orleans. You heard me in my remarks about the state suggest that the state is cutting back on vital services. They used to be right down the street from here. The New Orleans Adolescent Hospital, which was a mental health hospital that was in great need. And the state, because of its budget decisions that they have made, and over the last 8 years have been terrible budget decisions, have started downsizing most of the services that they're providing to the city of New Orleans. Now, all of this stuff comes downhill. When the state of Louisiana cuts funding for mental health, when the state of Louisiana cuts funding for paratransit that used to go through the RTA, when the state of Louisiana cuts funding for probation and parole, or the Indigent Defender's Office, or the District Attorney's Office, all of a sudden, that ends up at the City Council's desk. And then it ends up in the city of New Orleans. And it is not a good situation right now. You see, as we speak, your state legislature struggling with I think today it's a $600 million hole. That was predictable. It was knowable. But the state legislature over the past 8 years has not made the same kind of fiscally strong decisions that our city council has made. And as a result, people are paying. So we are going to continue to advocate very strongly. There's an article, I believe it's in the Washington Post or the New York Times, I don't remember which. The House of Representatives on the federal level is struggling with trying to find a way to deal with the opioid addiction. Dr. Rouse has highlighted that we've had a heavy uptick in deaths from opioid use. And a lot of mental health and substance abuse treatment programs are being shorted. We have to continue to advocate very, very strongly for them, because if you want to build it from the ground up, give people what it is that they need so that they can avoid an untimely death, we have to do more of that. And we're not even close to where we need to be. Yes, sir. We're going to go here and then there.
My name is Douglas Patterson. I'm from the Kelton neighborhood,
Hey, Mr.
which
Patterson.
is better known like Gertown neighborhood.
Carrollton's in the house tonight. Carrollton, too.
And what
I
it
know
is,
where
the
Gertown
problem
is.
that we have, we done got back there, the Booster Club for Norwood Thompson Park. We done got together and got with the kids and started working with kids and everything else, got with Nora. Now we're waiting on 2nd District to start building it.
It's coming.
They're building back there. We want the police. We want the police. We got cameras. We got everything. We're working pretty good with the neighborhood. We done got all of us. First, you got to have a heart like you have a heart. You got to get deep down into the neighborhood and talk to your people. Because if you don't talk to them, they won't learn nothing. Half of them just looking for love. They got what you might call thugs. There's people that's not thugs back there. They just want somebody to tell them something what's right and what's wrong. But sometimes we just got to go out all of our way to talk to these dudes. We spot them. We tell them what they're doing. You can't do this. You can't do that. Don't smoke around the kids. Don't do this. Don't carry no guns. Y'all, we got cameras around us. We with the churn. We want to deal with the churn, to raise the churn. Just like you said, you got to catch the churn when they're small until they get older. Like the Nola for Life program, it done a lot for us. We had all kind of activity. We got police protection. We got everything. In the neighborhood, it's coming together. People who stood inside come outside now. They start unlocking their doors, and with you all help, we can get it done.
Turn around so they can see your shirt. That's the Thompson Ravens, y'all. Listen, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Listen, when we renovated Thompson Playground, and on the day that we cut the ribbon, you were there. I handed this over to you guys, and I said, this is y'all's park. Y'all need to take care of it. It was a couple years ago. The park looks beautiful. Y'all have done a good job. Anytime you go by this park, it's right on Earhart Boulevard, a couple of blocks before Carrollton, right next to the plant. You go in there and you're going to see these men that grew up in that neighborhood, giving their time and their life back to these young kids who are doing a great job. You guys are the example of what I'm talking about tonight, so thank you. All right. I'm gonna take one more, and then I'm gonna let y'all get on about your way. Go ahead.
So Will Smith nor Cardell Hayes would have benefited from most of the programs that you talked about earlier. I've submitted to
They would have
Susan-
benefited from conflict resolution.
Maybe. I submitted to Susan Guidry in November 2014, and today I sent to your office as well as some people here, that we need a comprehensive marketing strategy around stopping the violence. We need our bus stops to have the messaging. For example, as the guy put on the Domino's pizza box to be hired for an NOPD, we need on the Domino's pizza boxes, on the Rouse's bags, on the corner store bags, stopping violence. It needs to be a comprehensive message program. We already know, and you already know, that more police will not stop our violence. More jail time is not going to stop our violence. If it was a deterrent, if jail was a deterrent, or even death row was a deterrent to crime, no one would be on death row because the first person would have learned from everybody else. We need a comprehensive plan where we're serious about it. As you said earlier, the schools need to get involved, but we need a messaging plan. We need a marketing strategy where everyone has in their mind that this is a nice place, this is how we behave here, and they're constantly hit with that message on a daily basis. And the NIH, the National Institute of Health, has strategies to deal with anti-violence because you understand that violence is a major health risk in a lot of communities.
Great.
And so they have monies to do those things that we should be able to tap into to help with our city's problem.
Great. Well, all right, first of all, thank you very much for that comment. I wanted to say a couple of things about that. First of all, I completely agree with you. You won't be surprised to know that before we started this, that's the first thing that we thought of. And Judy Reese-Morris, who is my deputy mayor, Judy, stand up so they can see you, began a communication with Spike Lee and his team, and they actually are the ones that designed the entire flip the script marketing strategy that you saw if you were here early enough. We showed you that plan. But like all marketing stuff, it has to be sustained over a long period of time, and you have to have the resources to do it because we're about changing behavior. Now, we know this is possible because we've done this with cigarettes. And the point that you made that I want to drive home to everybody is that this is a public safety threat. There's no question about it. There's some guys that are bad. They're not going to get out of the life. They need to be arrested. The faster they're arrested and the more determined their sentences are and the quicker so that they know, which is why we mean what we say now. And the judges have been doing a good job of working with us to make sure that we can prosecute folks in big numbers when we know that they're part of the gang and they've chosen to continue to hurt people. In some instances, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 other people. It's got to be clear that we can protect innocent lives. We have to be able to do that, while at the same time giving them opportunities to change. Always telling them a good choice is going to have a good consequence, and a bad choice is going to have a bad consequence. But it is also true, and Dr. Peter W., who is here, will tell you this, that this is very much a health issue too. Very much so. It is just like the transmission of a virus. It is a learned behavior over time that gets infected, and it just continues, especially if the culture that I talked to you about, where there's guns, where there's violence, where there's drugs, where there's tough neighborhoods, where there's disintegrated social structures, right? If you go look at all the crime statistics in America and you look at exactly where it is, the fact that it gets reduced by half over the past 20 years, while great, doesn't really tell the whole story. It doesn't mean that everybody in America is half as safe. What it means is that a lot of people who are never at risk are almost completely safe. And then what it means is that in certain specific neighborhoods, their risk of death is 100 times the national average. So When you start thinking about that and you think about it from a public health perspective, then you can attack it both from that side and the public safety side. And if you don't see them in its whole context, then, of course, like any other medical condition, you can appropriately prescribe something that is not going to solve the problem. So I would say all of the above. I gave a long list tonight. When people say there's nothing I can do, I gave a long list of what everybody can do. And likely that's not even enough. But this is what I know. I believe it in my heart, and I know it to be true from my history. Back in the day, there was the Wild Wild West. It ain't there no more. Back in the day, right, when the mafia was running around doing everything that they did, it ain't there no more like it used to be back then. Things can change, but you have to, just like ceasefire, you got to go stand in the breach. You got to go interrupt it. If there's a virus, you better find a way to find a cure, or the virus is going to spread. Is that right? Y'all are paying attention to the Zika virus. We paid attention to Ebola, right? There were lots of other instances. The world solved polio, right? Polio. I mean, we found a way to go to the moon. So I just don't accept that this is a problem that can't be solved. As a matter of fact, and I'll end with this and get out of your way, if you go look at the data, the kind of killing that we have right now, where young men resolve their differences by shooting somebody that they know, did you hear that statistic, or did that just blow by you? So you know the great fear that we have in crime is that we're coming home from making our groceries, and somebody that we don't know is going to run up on us and hurt us. Now that happens, and it should never happen. But that's not but 5–10% of what it is. And we're on that every day, like gravy on rice. We never want that to happen to anybody. But the statistics that I showed you said that in your city, in specific neighborhoods, with specific people, between specific ages who know each other, are the ones that have gotten involved in this way of resolving their differences at the point of a gun. Almost every one of these murders is at the point of a gun. And so like any other challenge that we have, whether we're finding the cure to Ebola, or we're trying to find a new cure to cancer, or we're finding a new way to do better policing, you have to be very specific about what it is that you're trying to fight, and you have to be purposeful, and you have to have the resources. And let me repeat something else that I said to you. When people tell you that the federal government's got no role in this, Boston, San Bernardino, Paris, Brussels, you know what they all have in common? It was terrorism in cities. You know what else they have in common? You know who were the first to show up to respond? Local law enforcement. Do you know that after we prosecuted the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we began something that we in this country called nation building, which I am not against, we, without even thinking about it, we didn't even think about it, didn't ask how much it cost, didn't ask who was going to pay for it, sent billions of dollars to build police departments in cities in other countries. So as a mayor of a major American city, when I go to Congress and they say to me, no, that's a local responsibility, I say to them that you are wrong. In the fight against terrorism, which we know is coming, where our guys are at the tip of the spear, in the ability to keep American citizens safe, 10 million of them come into our city every year, in the need to keep our citizens safe from crime in partnership with the U.S. Attorney, DEA, ATF, don't tell me that you don't have the money because I saw you send it over there. Now, I'm not trying to get you to do either or. I think we can do both and in America, because at the end of the day, if America's not strong at home, it's very hard for us to be strong abroad. So as I have said, we have to all be in. That's number one. Number two, this is an unacceptable state of affairs. Number three, this is a solvable problem if we have the will. I think America is up to the task, and I know the people of the city are. Thank you all very much.